Hi guys, welcome to the live stream for tonight. We have a lot to talk about tonight now that we've been discussing variables over the last week or so. Hi guys, welcome to. Sorry, I had my speaker on my other computer. We've been talking about variables. So we have a couple questions on that I know you guys have some questions about. I'm already getting a few questions on YouTube, so we'll talk about some of those, and we'll talk about some on Google Classroom if anybody has them on there too as well. All right, so starting off on question number one, the directions here just say solve each problem, so all we have to worry about is solving what it's asking. So it says, the fifth graders at Leesburg Elementary decided that they wanted to take a trip to Cleveland to see the greatest football team in the world play, the Browns. Now, one thing I'm going to do, and I've mentioned to you guys you might want to start doing, is highlighting. So I'm going to highlight as we go. They play the Bengals at home on November 25th, so they're all going to go. There are 114 people. I'm going to highlight that because I know that's going to be important at some point. 114 people, including parents and teachers. And the teachers decided to, and I see this word that's important, split. So we know the students are going to be split up into groups with 9 in each group. So we know there's going to be 9 in each group. So our question is, how many groups? So when we're doing this, what we got to be thinking is, we know how many people there are. There are 114 people total, and we know that they're splitting those people up into groups of 9. So when I see that word split, automatically in my head I start to think that's talking about division. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take, scroll down a little bit, I'm going to take 114 and I'm going to divide that by 9. Now sometimes it might be helpful to write down your multiples of 9. Sometimes maybe that isn't something that you like. I'm just going to do it for right now, just so that we have it. So I'm going to put 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, and so on. It's kind of a helpful point. Now, first off, I know I have 114. If I'm splitting into groups of 9, I'm thinking, can I put 100 in each group? Well, 100 times 9 would be 900, which is way too much. So I know I can't put 100 into each group. Also, if we think of the shorthand way, no group of 9 can be made out of 1. So now we're working in the tens place, and now I have 114 left still. So I'm thinking, how many tens could I put into each group? Well, I have 11 tens. So I have enough to put 1 10 in each group, which would be 9 here. 11 minus 9 is 2, and we'll break down the 4. So we still have 24 to split up. Now using my list over here, I can kind of that can kind of be helpful. So what I'm going to say is 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54. That's going to be 2 groups of 9. 2 times 9 is 18. And then 24 minus 18 is 6. Now, what happens here that's kind of weird is that we have 12, but we have a remainder of 6. Now, if we go back and look at the question, that's what's important. The question says, how many groups will there be? Well, if we stop here and say 12 remainder 6, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So what we're going to say is, well, there's 12 groups that each have 9 people. But if we just say 12 groups, then we're leaving out 6 people. So what I'm going to say then is, since there's 12 groups of 9 and there's another 6, we're going to tell these 6 to make another group, which means there are a total of 13 groups. We got to be really careful when we're thinking about the remainder and what to do with the remainder. In this case, if we have 6 people left over, even if they don't make an entire group, they still count as a group. If we just put 12 groups, then those 6 people can't come, so we have to add on a 13th group. All right, let's move on to the next question. Mr. Thompson weighs, and I'm going to highlight again, 175 pounds. It's about accurate. And his friend, LeBron James, that's my friend, weighs 250 pounds. He's a little bigger than me. He's a lot taller than me. One day they decided to take a trip on a rocket to the moon. On the moon, Mr. Thompson weighed 29 pounds, and his friend LeBron weighed 41 pounds. What is the, oh, I see this word, difference? Notice I'm highlighting as I go. It makes it a little easier. What is the difference between the combined tells me that I'm putting something together, combined weight of Mr. Thompson and LeBron James on the Earth and on the moon? So a lot going on there. It gives me a lot of numbers. It gives me a lot of information. The first thing I know is that we're going to combine something, and then we're finding the difference. So that tells me we're going to subtract something. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to combine his weight on LeBron James and Mr. Thompson's weight on the Earth and on the moon. So first I'm going to combine their weights on Earth, which would be, let's go to a pen instead of highlighter, which would be 175 plus 250. That's going to give me the total of their weights on, this would be the total of their weights on the Earth. Now, it said combined, so we did that. Now we need to combine their weights on the moon. So I know it's 41 and 29. So I'm going to add 41 plus 29. So we're combining now their weights on the moon, which is 70. Now this word difference is what's important. We want to know the difference between their combined weight on Earth and their combined weight on the moon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take those two numbers and subtract. So I'm going to take 425 minus 70, and I'm going to let you guys finish that. I'm going to let you finish what's left, so 425 minus 70. And that's going to tell me the difference of their combined weight. All right, moving on. So let's note the directions under the next part. I'm going to highlight. So it says write 2 number sentences that model each of the word problems below. And I mentioned to you guys in class today that those number sentences should each use a variable. Remember, a variable is a symbol, a letter, a picture that stands for a number, and that's really important. All right, so Mr. Martin had 17 bottles of Coca-Cola. He drank some. How many did he drink? We don't know. He drank some. And he has 7 left. What number sentence would show how many bottles that Mr. Martin drank? Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a variable. Because it's the most common one, I like to use X. So I'm going to use X. Now, what is the one thing in this problem that we don't know? The thing that we don't know is how many that he drank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, he started out with 17. And if he has 7 left, I can subtract that. And that should tell me then how many that he drank. Now, remember, in order, when we're working with this, we can also flip this around. It's like a fact family. So if we can use a subtraction, remember we can also use addition, thinking about what this X is. So I challenge you to try to flip this around to use addition. Remember, there's 4 different number sentences in that same fact family. So you only have to write 2 of those, and I gave you 1 of them. So you just have to come up with the other one that goes along with that fact family. All right, moving on to the last part, which I think might be the part that people would have the toughest time with. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 2 of these, and then I'm going to leave the last one for each of you to do on your own. All right, so to start off, let's remember, well, let's read the directions. The directions here say, describe each of the number sentences below with a phrase. Hint, use your keywords notes. So your keywords notes, remember, are on Google Classroom. If you don't have those, right under, if you click on classwork, they're right there. Oh, Layla said that the variable in the last one should have been a B because it stands for bottles. That's fine. You can use, a lot of times we use the variable that stands for a certain word, so that's fine. You could use any variable. All right. So first one says y.17.y equals 357. Remember, this dot here means multiplication. So in your keywords notes, you're going to look up a word that means the same as multiplication. We're going to do a really basic one. So we're going to take 17, and then we're going to think, how could we read this? 17 dot, that means times multiply groups each. I'm going to say 17 groups. And you might not use that same word. 17 groups. I could either say of y, but I want to say it in a little different way. So I'm going to say 17 groups of an unknown number. Sorry, I'm writing a little sideways. 17 groups of an unknown number. Remember, we can also say the words something, or a number, or some number, or one group even said a number in disguise. So we can call that variable a lot of different things, but I'm just going to call it an unknown number here. So 17 groups of an unknown number, and then to finish it off, I'm just going to say equals 357. And that's all I'm really looking for on those. Just a phrase that describes what's happening. So let's look at the second one. So the second one is addition. So I'm going to look at my notes and I'm going to find a word for addition. One that I like to use for addition is sum. So I'm going to say the sum of, and what are we taking the sum of? Well, we're taking the sum of 19 and whatever we call this, I'm going to call it just a number this time. So the sum of 19 and a number is 47. Lots of different ways you could say that. You could say 19 plus a number is 47. 19 increased by a number is 47. There's a lot of different ways you could say that. Your keyword sheet and find one that you like the best. Now I'm going to let you do the third one on your own. Now keep in mind the third one doesn't have an equal sign because this is a variable expression. So we don't really know the answer in this case. I challenge you to try to use the words less or fewer. Remember when we use the words less or fewer, and we'll see that in just a second, it kind of flips things around, so that's harder to think about. All right. Let me check really fast and make sure. All right. So we're going to scroll down. I'm going to let you do the last one. So the bottom directions say, write a number sentence for each phrase below. So this is kind of opposite of what we just did. This time it's giving us the phrase, and we're writing the number sentence. So it's like taking this, and it's giving us this, and it's asking us to find this. So the first one says 5 less than a number. Now this word less than, or these words less than, have a meaning, and you find those right on your keyword sheet. When we see that word less, we're thinking subtracting. Less than, you're losing some, you're subtracting. Now this is a little misleading because it says 5 less than a number. Well, what's a number? A number is x. Remember I said a second ago that anytime you see this word less or fewer, it kind of flips things around. So a lot of times people think this must be 5 minus a variable. But really, it's a variable minus 5. The reason for that is because you're taking 5 less than something. If I had said 5 less than 20, then you would do 20 minus 5. If I had said 5 less than 100, you would do 100 minus 5. So 5 less than a number is just saying a variable minus 5, some number minus 5. So that's what we're looking for there. All right. The same thing would happen if we'd used the word fewer. The second one, a number. So a number, I'm going to use any variable. I like to use x. And then I see this word shared. When you see that word shared, you should automatically be thinking you're giving a little bit to different groups. When you're giving a little bit to different groups, that's the same as dividing something up. So that's division. So a number shared among 5 people. So you're sharing it among 5 people. So I did the same thing again. So you're dividing it. Let's erase that. I don't know what I was doing there. You're dividing it among 5 people. and that is 17. So anytime you see the word is, that's like the same as the word equals. They're the same. They're kind of used interchangeably. So is 17. Now the last one, I don't think you'll have any trouble with if you didn't have any trouble with the first two, because it's pretty basic. Keep in mind though, this one has two different operations in it. We see the word added and the word times. So you got to think about what exactly that would look like. Somebody asked, what would be the difference between 5 less than a number and 5 less a number? Saying 5 less a number doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't really make sense unless you say 5 less than a number. The word less makes sense, but it sounds much better if you put 5 less than a number. I guess 5 less a number would be kind of like 5 minus that number. It sounds a lot better though if you say 5 less than a number. They're a little bit different. So I would go with 5 less than a number is what I would say. If there's any more questions, guys, please ask. Hopefully you have an okay time on those last two. Thank you guys for coming tonight, and I hope that variables are going okay with you guys. You guys are doing a really nice job in class, and I'm really proud of all you guys. So I'll see everybody at school tomorrow. Good night.